The Review tab is where you review how you're pacing toward your plan's goals, how each month in your plan compares, and a breakdown of where your income, saving, and spending came from and went to. Let's take a closer look. Plan pacing gives you a clear sense of whether or not you're on track. This user created a plan that goes from September through August. The dotted green line represents today's date and moves further to the right every day. For net income and net savings, if your bar has not reached the current month, your bar will be red since you're off track. But the more you earn or save, the more that bar will grow. And as soon as it has grown to be at least within the current month or ahead of the green date line, it will turn green to indicate you're on track. For spending, the coloring is the opposite. If your spending has grown to be within the current month, but not beyond, it will be green to show that you're on track. But if your spending grows beyond the current month, the bar will turn red, an indication that you're off track and you should try to dial back your spending. By default, the graph shows all income, saving, or spending. But if you want to see your pacing by the line items you set up, simply select one from any of the three drop-down menus. Note that for the spending section, when all spending is selected, the max spending number does not include spending that comes from transactions labeled with a savings withdrawal category. In this example, the new car spending category is a savings withdrawal category. The reason savings withdrawals aren't included in all spending is a little nuanced. When you build your plan on the Plan tab, the general idea is that you're trying to balance your spending and saving with your income. Savings withdrawals, especially for very significant items like a car purchase or a home down payment, would make an otherwise balanced budget look very unbalanced. Therefore, savings withdrawal transactions are excluded from the budget balance check on the Plan tab. On the Review tab, the plan pacing chart mimics your budget balance numbers. This gives you an accurate view of how much you can spend in total for a month and over the course of your plan, without looking at those large and often infrequent savings withdrawals. Of course, you can still see your spending for savings withdrawal categories in the plan pacing chart by selecting it in the drop-down. However, when a savings withdrawal category is selected, the on or off track green and red coloring only applies if you are below or beyond your total max spending for that savings withdrawal, and is not affected by the plan pacing timeline. The reason for this is that savings withdrawals represent the total withdrawal amounts and are typically done in one or a few transactions, as opposed to being spaced out over the course of the plan. For example, here, the user has paid the $25,000 deposit for their new car within the first few months of their plan. They are not planning on making any additional savings withdrawals for that category. Since that is not more than the total amount they set for that spending category goal, it is showing that the user is on track. The monthly comparison chart gives you a quick overview of how your income, saving, and spending compares across different months in your plan. If, for example, you notice your spending was high in one month compared to usual, you could try to spend less in the upcoming months. Additionally, this graph can be a helpful tool to spot errors that may have occurred in your Update tab. For example, let's say you noticed that one month your spending was significantly higher than usual, and you don't think it should have been. Seeing this might tip you off to a mistake, where you tracked all your credit card spending transactions and the payment to that credit card to pay for that previous month's transactions. This would be an example of double counting. As explained in our Update tab help video, payments to credit cards should be ignored if you're also tracking that same card's transactions in MoneySwell. Note, in the monthly comparison chart, unlike in the plan pacing chart above it, when all spending is selected, savings withdrawal transactions are included. This is because the monthly comparison graph isn't trying to mimic your budget balance check in the same way that plan pacing is. Instead, it literally just shows you how much you spent in a given month, including spending that came from previously saved dollars. Finally, Cash Flow Breakdown shows you your line item breakdowns as a pie graph for each of your broader income, saving, and spending updates. Depending on how many line items you have for each of your broader categories, your pie graph could be very simple, just showing one or a few sources of income, savings categories, or spending categories in each graph. But if you track several categories, you can hover over each section in the graph to see the dollar amount and the percentage of the total that dollar amount represents for a given broad category.